This tutorial is going to explain how to use outputs from WaterWorld in the WEAP modeling software. And for that we're going to use a piece of software called WaterWorld-WEAP, which comes as a zip file. And so the first thing we need to do is to extract this file. So I'm just going to extract it in a folder. And once that's done, we can open up the folder, and inside is the actual executable. Now it's a bit fiddly to find this every time you want to run it, so I suggest you make a shortcut from this file. So you right click on this and you create a shortcut, which we can then put on the desktop, and then we can run the software from the desktop. So in order to start the software, we're just going to double click on the shortcut, and what that's going to do, it's going to open up the WEAP software, and a pop-up box opens that asks me to select a WEAP application or to create a new one. So I can move this away if I like. I can now select the application I want to work on, or I can leave it to the one that is currently open, or I could create a new one. In this case, I've created a very simple WEAP application here called test, and that's the one I'm going to be using. So if I'm happy with this, I can now press OK. And what software is now going to do, it's going to prepare a schematic, and it will save it in this folder. So I'm going to click OK and let the software do its thing. Some pop-up windows might open. And this could take a while, depends on how complicated your network is in WEAP. But it shouldn't take more than a minute or two at the most. So once that's finished, I now get a pop-up box saying that the WaterWorld schematic is saved. It's saved in this folder, which it also opens, and it tells me to go to the policy support website, to go to WaterWorld and run a baseline. So the files that have now been created are a set of GIS files. So from the schematic here, the software has created some shape files from the flow nodes, the rivers and the tributaries, inflows. We have a text file with all the flow nodes and the coordinates, a KMZ file which we can open in Google Earth, and we have a zipped file of the schematic. And this is what we need to upload in WaterWorld to get the flow at points. So if I'm happy with this, I'll now go to policy supported or WaterWorld, and I'm going to run a baseline. So I've opened up WaterWorld. I'm going to move this for now, and I'm going to sign in. And what I need to do now is I need to find the area for where I need to run WaterWorld to get my flow information. This happens to be the tile that I have selected here. So I'm just going to give that a name. I'm going to leave that to 1 kilometer, and I'm going to define the area. So step 1 is done. I've selected the area. I now have to go to step 2, prepare the data. And so what I need to do now is to define WEAP control points. So I click on the little plus next to it, and then it says upload the PNG and schematic files, zip together, etc. So that zip's already created, so I can just click on upload PNG, and then if I click select, I can then browse to the schematic that was saved by the software. So the WEAP schematic, I select it and I click on open, and then WaterWorld will tell me that the schematic is uploaded successfully and renamed to WEAP. The next step we need to do then is to define the control points on the map. So if I click on this, a little icon appears here which allows me to view the map in Google Maps. So I'm going to do that, and what this is showing me is all rivers in the tile that I selected to run, and within that is the schematic that I've uploaded. So I zoom in to the area where I know my river system to be, and what I need to do now is I need to look at where the rivers are, and I need to map the WEAP control points on the river system. And this is so we can make sure that the flow recorded, which is along those flow lines, is the correct flow. And so I can toggle these rivers on and off, and if I do that, now I see my schematic, and the schematic has numbers, and what we need to do is we need to map these in the same order as they are numbered on the schematic. So I'm gonna switch this on now. My first control point is here, and if I look at the river system like this and this, then it's clear to me that the flow we want is somewhere before this connection here on the river system. So I find the point that corresponds roughly with this point on the schematic, and I click on define point, and so it tells me 1 is okay. And then we move on to the next. I'm just going to switch the rivers off, and I'm going to look for the next point on my schematic, which is number 2. Number 2 is the end point of this river stretch here. So the numbers correspond to the flow at the end of these river reaches. So I'm going to switch this on again, and I'm going to see that we have an incoming river from here, which is reflected by this river reach on the schematic, and we have a river system coming in here. So where the crosshair is currently is roughly the right location before the stream is joined by this tributary. So my point 2 would be here, and I click on define point, point 2, okay. And so we need to do this for every point in the system. So if you have a very elaborate WEAP schematic, then there's quite a lot of points to do. But fortunately you only have to do this once. So if you would run later with a scenario, you don't have to redefine those points. So there are 5 points in this particular schematic. I have just done the remaining points except for the last one. So number 5 is at this location here. So I'm going to click define point number 5, that's okay, and so I am now done. So when I've done all that, I can just close this window, and then I can start the process as I'm used to in WaterWorld. So I can copy data to my workspace, and then we can carry out the run from there. So the system is now ready with preparing all the data, so we can close this, and then we can go to step 3, is to start the simulation. Now, since we require monthly information on the flows, we need to set the run to write maps, so we get monthly outputs. So once we've done that, we can just hit start and let WaterWorld do a run. So the run is now finished, so we can close this window and we can have a look at the results. So I'm going to click on step 5, results maps, and then we have to look for the monthly maps. I'm going to click on all maps, and we're looking for the monthly monthly runoff maps. So we'll click on the millimeter per hour runoff maps. I'm just going to click on monthly maps, and then the system will start generating the monthly maps. So the system has now generated all the monthly outputs. Now obviously you can use all the features available in WaterWorld to interrogate the results. All the usual features are available, but for now we're interested in the WEAP output. So I'm going to click on this link, prepare output for WEAP, and that will open up a new window, and it gives me the values of runoff in millimeter per hour for the 5 points that we've located on the stream network for the year 2000 for every month. And so we can download this as a text file, but what we want for the WEAP, for the WaterWorld-WEAP link, is to get a permalink. So I'm going to click on permalink, and then I copy the link that comes up here, and now I can go back to where I left the WaterWorld-WEAP link, where we said this is where the schematic is saved. If I click on that, click OK, then the next window that pops up is the URL, and so this is where I'm going to paste the URL that is generated by WaterWorld. And I'm just going to go back to WEAP now. So I've pasted in the WaterWorld URL, and I'm going to click OK, and then it's going to ask me if this data is at 1 kilometer or 1 hectare resolution. So is the data 1 kilometer resolution? Yes, in this case it is. So I'm going to click yes, and this is because we need to convert the millimeters per hour to cubic meters a second. I'm going to click yes, and now the software asks me if I want to append the data to the reaches, and I want to do that as well, so I'm going to click yes, and now you'll see that the system is going to read in all the monthly data, so our inflows or head flows, etc., and I get a message that all changes are saved. Now if I click OK here, it might be that WEAP closes, but it's not always the case, but all changes are saved, so it's not a problem if it is closed. All the changes are saved, and so if I open it up again, all the flow data will be there, and so now it allows us to calculate results based on the input from WaterWorld. Sorry. So all of the data is available, and so you can use WEAP the way you're used to. if you now look in the WaterWorld folder, we also see that besides all the GIS files that were created in the schematic, we now also see raw data. So this is the millimeters per hour data, and a converted file where we have the baseline flow in cubic meters a second. So this is the data behind what is appended here to all the streamflow nodes in monthly data. So that's it. I hope that was useful, and thanks for taking the time to having a look at this.